Susan Unger works at the Connecticut DEP's Bureau of Water Protection and Land Reuse, conducting NPDES permit compliance inspections of municipal water pollution control facilities. Susan coordinates the annual EPA compliance monitoring strategy inspection plan for DEP and represents Connecticut on the EPA's National Non-Compliance Report Workgroup. In 2021, the EPA designated Susan as the DMR QA coordinator for the state of Connecticut. Prior to coming to Connecticut, she was a New Yorker. Most recently, she was a lab manager at Smith Environmental Laboratory, involved in all aspects of drinking water and wastewater sampling, analysis, and reporting. Susan serves as lab manager at the Poughkeepsie, lab manager at Poughkeepsie WPCF and worked on all programs for Clinton County Health Department and from individual sewage disposal systems to public water supplies. She began her career in the wastewater field at the Dutchess County Environmental Laboratory, running fecal coliforms and scrubbing her fair share of BOT bottles. Susan has her BS in biology from SUNY News Pauls. And here, Susan, there she is.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about Cmom, and to what Melissa was saying, this does have to do with infrastructure, so this is something to keep in mind for the legislative sessions. I normally have a little Cmom presentation that I give that a lot of you have seen. I've blended this with some of the slides that Jack Melcher from EPA Region 1 sent to me since he could not attend. So, let us go. All right, so I'm here to talk about Cmom, capacity, management, operation, and maintenance. The Cmom program was developed as a tool to help all you folks evaluate your collection systems management, operation, and maintenance programs activities. The principles in the Cmom guide, and this is a little screenshot from the cover of the guide. The principles in the Cmom guide are applicable to every system. It's just that these principles can be implemented through different means. So it's a one-size-fits-all, but everybody's Cmom plan will be different. Principles in the Cmom guide are applicable to all wastewater collection systems. These principles may be implemented through different means depending on the system. So this is a one-size-fits-all guide, but everyone's Cmom plan will be different. And what are the goals of Cmom? Of course, you want to be able to use your resources efficiently. You'd rather perform preventive maintenance rather than emergency repairs. You want to deliver excellent customer service, avoiding basement backups and insurance claims. You want to protect your employees. You want to develop a strong safety program for your collection system staff. And of course, you want to comply with the Clean Water Act. And Section 301 of the Clean Water Act says no one is allowed to discharge pollutants through a point source to waters of the United States without an NPDES permit. So, efficient use of resources. Cmom can help utilities optimize manpower and equipment by shifting maintenance activities from reactive to proactive. And this can lead to savings through avoiding costs due to overtime, avoiding emergency construction costs, lowering insurance premiums, fewer lawsuits, and ultimately changing the financial performance goals of the WPCA or town. Now, Title 40 of the Code of Federal Regulations, which tells us all how to write permits, does require as a standard permit condition that operators must properly operate and maintain all facilities and systems of treatment and control and related appurtenances installed or used to achieve compliance with the conditions of the permit. So our next goal is excellent customer service. Cmom approach can help the owner or operator provide a high level of service to customers. The Cmom program can also help improve communication relations with the public, other municipal works, regional planning organizations, and your friendly local regulators. Cmom, protect your employees. Many of you folks have seen this slide. I trot this slide out every time because it's a horrible thing to see people die when they're doing their jobs. Although a safety program may not be explicitly required under current NPDES regulations, An excessive injury rate among personnel increases the likelihood of collection system noncompliance with other requirements. And furthermore, when good safety practices are not followed, there may be a risk to the public or to collection system workers. The Cmom program has a robust safety component. And, well, as the slide says, to sewage workers, 20-year-olds. Guys, if I had a 20-year-old grandson, I'd be devastated. Dead at the bottom of a manhole. Where were their coworkers? Down the street. When did their coworkers decide to check on them? Around lunchtime. No, they were gone. One of the most common reasons for injury and fatalities in wastewater collection systems is the failure of victims to recognize hazards. Cmom program has a very strong safety component. And of course, ultimately, we want to reduce or mitigate our SSOs. In Connecticut, the NPDES permit, everybody's permit, Section 1B, references the regulations of Connecticut State Agencies, RCSA, Section 22A, 433, which regulates water pollution control facilities. Paragraph F of that section references proper operation and maintenance, which includes but is not limited to effective performance, adequate funding, and adequate operator staffing and training. Paragraph H of that section references the duty to mitigate, which means taking all reasonable steps to minimize or prevent any discharge in violation of the permit or any discharge which has a reasonable likelihood of adversely affecting human health or the environment. Your Cmom plan can explain how you are complying with these regulations. So, one of the plan essentials is mapping. I love this map. It's a beautiful old map. This came from Jack Melcher, thank you. Do you know what's in your system? This map was drawn in '65. You can see some updates maybe in red pen, but GIS mapping obviously is the way to go. Another plan essential is asset management. Of course, you need to know what's in your collection system through that map. Then you need to plan your system improvements, and then you need to implement those plans. But you have to convince everyone to cough up the bucks. The way to make a strong case is by having a written plan available with detailed information. And how do you get that detailed information? Through a risk assessment. A risk assessment is a process to identify potential hazards and analyze what could happen if a hazard occurs. So you have your likelihood of failure. How likely is it that that pump's going to go down? You have your consequence of failure. How bad is it going to be when that pump goes down? You put that likelihood and the consequence together mathematically, and you have a risk associated with each asset at that given point in time. And then there's conditions assessment. Assessment of underground assets can be challenging, but there are plenty of tools. CCTV, of course, being a really good one, can clue you into structural problems such as cracks and offset joints, as well as operational problems such as fog, rags, and debris. And to manage all that information, of course, you want a database. You ID the asset, you assess the condition, you associate the asset to the condition, you generate a score, and the poorly scored assets are rolled into your capital improvement plan. Inflow control and sewer use ordinance would be helpful tools as well. Of course, measuring the flow is another way of assessing the condition of your system, and inflow is a bug because in terms of overflows, it's not the annual total average that gets you, it's the peak flows. If you lower that peak flow from inflow, you can, for example, free up a tank to improve your nutrient removal. Private inflow is a difficult issue to deal with. If you have a sewer use ordinance with enforcement provisions, you can fine the residents that have roof leaders or sump pumps, but a better way would be an incentive program, such as splitting the cost of downspout or pump removal with the resident. That can help relieve those peaks, keep the resident happy, giving you good customer service, and mitigating your SSOs. Now, this question came up during a Cmom inspection this year, believe it or not. What is a bypass? RCSA, that's our Bible, bypass means the diversion of wastes from any portion of the wastewater collection or treatment facilities, whether planned or unplanned. And of course, thou shalt not bypass unless you meet one of two conditions, according to RCSA 22A 433K. If the bypass is unanticipated, unavoidable, and necessary to prevent loss of life, personal injury, or severe property damage, and I'm not talking about a flooded basement, I'm talking about loss of a pump station, and there's no feasible alternative to the bypass, then there you go. If the permittee receives prior written approval, however, from the commissioner, that would be us, in order to perform essential maintenance and the bypass does not cause effluent limitations to be exceeded, then you may also bypass. But those are the only two. And of course, here's a fun one. When is a basement backup a bypass? It depends. If the cause was a blockage in the main or a lack of capacity downstream causing all this nasty stuff to blurp up into their basement, that qualifies as a reportable bypass. If the cause was blockage of their homeowner's lateral, then no, it's not a reportable bypass. And that is another common question during Cmom inspections. And of course, what leads to basement backups? Fog. Fog is the #1 cause of basement backups due to blockages in the sewer main line. And this is a picture I took during a Cmom inspection of a slightly compromised manhole. POTWs are authorized to enforce the fog general permit. It's a critical program for the health of your collection system, and it should be part of your Cmom plan. And of course, can't talk about bypasses without talking about bypass reporting. The Sewage Right to Know has switched from ArcGIS to QAlert. A subscriber agreement must be completed for each reporter and submitted to us. The instructions are in the URL, and I'm sure you'll be able to grok these from the slides. Once you submit your subscriber agreement, you get a separate email for training, and only those folks who have a valid subscriber agreement and complete the training are allowed access to the system. So make sure you folks have folks online. The bypass reporting for municipal page looks like this, and there's the URL. Make sure to submit your initial 2-hour report within 2 hours of notification of the event. Make sure to change it to a 5-day report before you close it out. And there are 2022 QAlert tips on that page, and here's the URL for your information. Now, the law itself, there is a page here, and you can reference that. The law changed in 2021. It was updated by Public Act 21-42, and here's the URL, and here's what the front page of that law looks like. The updated language includes requirements for updating the electronic bypass system every 24 hours when a spill is ongoing. It also requires us to implement a real-time public notification system, which we did. We have a Twitter account. It requires us to post an annual report by February 1st every year, and that is on the webpage. And it changed the municipality reporting requirements. Here we go. This is the last ugliest slide. The new language reads, not later than 2 hours after becoming aware of any sewage spill or permitted sewage bypass that reaches a water body. I'm going to stop right here. These are in italics because there's something missing. The previous version of the law mentioned that you have to report spills over 5,000 gallons. That provision has been removed. Any spill at all that reaches a water body or may come in contact with the general public must be reported. So there's that. The other new part is that the operator of a sewage treatment plant or a sewage collection system shall notify the chief elected official and the health official of the municipality where the spill occurs, as well as the chief elected official and the health official of any potentially downstream potentially affected municipalities. So there's 2 sets of folks that they have to notify as soon as possible. Then those public elected officials, in conjunction with their public health officials, have to inform the general public. And they can do that through social media, and it has to be provided in each predominant language spoken by the residents of the municipality. So hopefully the town has a good translation program on hand. Cmom inspections are ongoing. This is the boilerplate wording that Craig and I usually put in our inspection reports when we do a plant and we don't see a Cmom plan. We conduct 4 Cmom inspections annually, and we're still going. Here is a slide with some helpful URLs. There's one for the Cmom self-assessment checklist, one for the guide itself, and then other technical reports and materials on the EPA website. If you have any questions, reach out. Thank you very much.